Hey, what's up, peeps? Mr. Spear here. This is the second part of this. My brain editing. We gotta do some stuff. Anyway, so uh, it's cool stuff. We're doing Star Citizen, calling all devs, and we're talking to I forget his name. I suck with names. But it's the inventory system, and he's talking about the future of the inventory system. The first half was about kind of you know it's it's yeah, it was just kind of the setup for it, and they're taking a step in the direction and iterating, right? And it's good to hear. It's good to hear, and it's exciting to see. And I kind of talked about game design in general and in broad strokes of like making decisions and stuff. Um, and then so the second one, this is the second one, and uh, it's not a it's not the best picture, but I'm kind of gonna I kind of messed up with actually recording this, so you're just gonna jump real quick, and then you know we're gonna come back and it'll be hopefully it'll be seamless. So cool. Thanks for watching. I'll be here we go.
Did I leave my 50 picos in Lorville, or did I leave my 50 picos in Area 18, or did I leave my 50 picos on my Carrack?
Well, actually, that's a good suggestion what you said there, because that leads on to the next thing in terms of we don't just want to be in a position where you're managing all of this stuff and you don't have access to the tools to manage it, or tools to manage it is probably the wrong word. The tools to have an overview of it.
Right.
Plus, we want you to be able to have a quick way of being able to interact with these things. So first off, if I look at the overview situation, the next step will also include something what we're calling the Asset Manager app. So if you think about the mobiGlas itself right now, we have the PMA and we have the VMA. The VMA, in terms of a logical sense, kind of makes sense. You're sending out requirements to say, AI or NPCs or mechanics in the real world to say, hey, can you change out my guns, or can you change out this component, and you're managing, and that kind of makes logical sense. PMA doesn't really make logical sense in terms of the position it's in the mobiGlas. That really makes sense that it should be in the inner thought, because I don't need to tell somebody else to put my slippers on,
Right.
or to help me get dressed, or that's the gun I'm going to take, or I'm going to put this in my backpack. That's me, my character. That's my inner thought in terms of how I manipulate items in the world. So what we want to do is that we want to take that external inventory interface, which I talked about in terms of personal inventory, which is currently like the boxes on the left hand side of your screen, which is like your backpack. You've got your chest pockets, and then you've got your leg pockets. And on the right side, you have your external inventory. When you obviously, if you just press I out and about, you just get your personal inventory. And then if you interact with in terms of the one that's live right now, in terms of the cargo the cargo grid, you'll interact with that, and then it'll bring up the external inventory. So what we want to be able to do is twofold for that screen. First is, if you're in an area that has a local inventory, such as a landing zone, if you open up your inventory either via the shortcut key I, or you access it through the inner thought wheel, that will bring up your personal inventory on the left hand side of the screen and the local inventory. And all of a sudden, then you can go, cool, I want to drag and drop these items, drag and drop this, and manipulate it. Then, let's say, for example, you're in a ship. Same principle. I press I open up. Now I have the ship inventory. But then you're like, well, actually, now my ship's in a landing zone. So I want to have access to my ship inventory, and I want to drag something from the ship inventory to my personal inventory, or something from my ship inventory to my local inventory. Now, in a physical inventory world, that's fine, because you have things ordered to locations, and then you're actually physically taking them and moving them to those locations. And we'll have future management apps where you can employ people to move things between hangars and so on and so forth. But for now, we want to be able to have like a tab-based system that when you open up your inventory interface, personal inventory here, external or local, or the ship inventory, and you'll be able to tab which side. So you might be able to have the ship inventory on one side and the local. And again, you can just drag and drop your items, move things between them. So you'll have a seamless way to manipulate between local inventory, personal inventory, and external inventories. Because in the scenario that we're talking about, let's say I've taken out a slaver, and I body drag that person back to my ship, and I then interact with their backpack, which is an external inventory. I now want to be able to drag something directly from their external inventory directly into my ship inventory. Now, let's say, for the example, that I've now flown to a landing zone. Now I have an external inventory inside the ship that's inside a landing zone. But I want to be able to drag something from the external inventory directly to my local inventory. And with this system, you'd be able to do that. And obviously, another wrinkle on top of that is that we'll have the character in the middle, and the character will be 3D, and it will be your character, and you'll be able to manipulate all these different inventories directly onto your character. And all of a sudden, now you're managing your loadout in this inventory system. So all of a sudden, we can then go, hey, PMA, you didn't really make sense because that's not really how it would work. VMA, sure. Now, and we do want to kind of tweak VMA long term in terms of how that and deprecate it from something that makes more sense. But PMA never really made sense. So that would go. Your access to like this infinite bag of holding would disappear, and all of a sudden you'd have the gameplay loop of what physical inventory will eventually be, or 90% of that gameplay loop, shall we say. So you're having to manage the local, personal, and external inventories between all of your different ships and locations. And clearly this kind of system is what we want to put in place for then, that's a good step forward, which will be underpinned by, the technology of what we were talking about in terms of iCache, or a segment of iCache that will underpin this in terms of being able to store items and for those items to persist. But this will give us a really good leap towards like making the next step in terms of, okay, now we need to add physical hubs and physical hangars because we need physical locations for you to store these things. We already have lockers, but we're always going to have external storage. So if you look at the three things that we've talked about, where you've got personal, then you've got local, and you've got external. External and personal inventories are how we want it to be. We always want to have those. Now we want physical as well, so that in some ships you might have an overhead locker where you're just interacting with a space that's larger than you can actually physically see, and you can utilize the interface to manipulate that. But vice versa, you can go to a locker or a weapon rack and interact with those physically. But we're also going to offer you the ability to actually go, okay, I look at that helmet, I interact with it, it automatically takes it out, puts it on, and then I go, actually, I just want to put this whole suit on. So I'm just going to right click and go open external inventory interface, and it will bring up the external inventory. Now I can just drag them from that locker directly onto my character and then put them on. So we have an interface-based system, but also a physical-based system. And this is all underpinned by the physicality of all these items being in the world. These external inventories, like we did with the Grinrock, they're not going to be magic bag of holding. They are going to be physical to the volume that you can actually put in. Like, for example, your back.
Yes, and this is super important. He talked about it too, like iCache. iCache is big. Like, it's the next big technology that they're working on. Well, they're working on multiple, but like it's the next step in the awesomeness of it, because it's just it gives the. I'm not gonna say it gives the life. It gives the feel, right? Like the feeling part of Star Citizen, right? Like the life part is gonna be the quantum system, Quanta. I don't know why they named it, but anyway. So it's like, but the feeling part, like the touching and how it feels and stuff like that, that's the like iCache, and it's also has to deal with more and more stuff, and they're going to iterate through that and make it better through time. But for this is a big part because it's the feeling, like I said, like picking up stuff and examining and saying, oh look, and that's super cool. It's super cool. iCache, super important. There's no done with it. They're like they were talking about. It's not going to be ever done, but they're gonna be. It's gonna be like Planet Tech, and they're gonna keep on working on it. So it's good.
Backpack. A good example I took about the backpack in terms of how we limit it is you'll always be limited by the amount of weight you can carry, and weight is something that we're starting to push more and more. Tractor beam was the first example of that. When we go forward, eventually you won't be able to carry everything that is just the 50 by 50 box, which is what you can carry.
One question, and I don't know if they're gonna do this, is I don't. It seems like they would, but can you carry more weight on a less weight gravity, smaller? My brain, smaller gravity, like moon, right, or something, or planet, like. We just have more stuff. I wonder if they're going to do that or not. Probably.
So weight will always be a limitation in inventory. Item dimensions is also a limitation, and the volume capacity. So a snooker cue is always a good example, because if I put a snooker cue through a wood chipper, I could put all of those wood chips into my backpack from a volume perspective, and I'd be great. But if in the orientation of the snooker cue, I can't put the snooker cue in my backpack.
I don't know.
So all of a sudden, we've got those measurements of, that external inventory still has to be physically correct, even though I'm not dealing with the physical items. So everything is still underpinned and working towards physical inventory, but we have these steps that we want to go towards to get there. So essentially, in summary, in terms of what's the next step is personal, external, local, item-based for the character, so that you have that premise, so that when you do, die in a cave or on a planet or somewhere else, then, those items will be left there. You're going to have to go back and try and get them. And then it is, that core loop of physical inventory. And that's kind of the road to personal inventory. That is the next step. And the one thing that you touched on in terms of where is my item in this location, where is my item in this location, that's essentially what we're talking about. It's called the Asset Manager app. So the Asset Manager app is where you'll be able to open up in your mobiGlas and go, where are all my items? So you'll have an overview, which is what I was talking about before, in terms of an overview of all your items. So you'll be able to know, like, okay, that's in Area 18, that's in Grimhex, that's in my Carrack, that's in my M50. And all ships going forward will have some form of external storage and physical storage.
Cool.
So you can see there's a lot to kind of underpin. We've come at this a holistic point of view to make sure that we're covering all the different bases, and there will be a transition period where we kind of deprecate the local inventory to turn on physical inventory. But if we just waited for true physical inventory, we'd be much further out, because it's not just the underpinning of the persistency technology. It's also about the content and the hangars and the physical hubs and all of those locations, and they need lockers and they need to work, and that's a huge amount of.
Yeah, and also I kind of cut him off, but also the thing about the physical inventory thing is, like, in a design perspective, right? If you're designing a mission, right now, I don't think it is infinite bag. Is it infinite bag only? I don't remember. But, like, you can hold a lot, right? But, like, it's hard to design and get feedback for missions and loot and, like, all that type of stuff. Everything, like, it's hard to design experiences when, like, a big system like this is not there, right? Because it's like, oh, this weapon's not working, so I'm just gonna use another one. Versus in the experience of, like, when you're doing when the physical thing is here, when the physical inventory is here, then the designers have to design kind of around the scarcity, right, of options that the player has versus the abundance, right? It's super hard. Both are super hard, but, like, it's just interesting to really think about it. Like, if you really think about, like, how, like, the design. Okay, so let's say that you have a Mercury Star Runner. If you can infinitely store things into the Mercury Star Runner, one, you just never like, the time would, and, like, okay, and you designed a experience out in the edge of the universe or known universe, right? Like, that design experience, that design is going to be way different than a design of, like, scarcity, right? Like, you have a limited inventory, because if you have a limited inventory, like, there's only a certain amount of things that you can do, right? And it's like, not just a, hey, like, I got something for everything. It's like, and then also creates it makes creativity for the player, like, more important too. But it's like, oh, I have everything versus I have nothing versus I have everything, right? So it's a different design process, right? When you're really thinking about how the missions are designed. Yeah, so it's super cool.
Work from multiple different teams, but we want to get that gameplay loop live as soon as possible, so that people can start experiencing the game that we're trying to make. So that's where we want to go forward next, and this is a good interim step. And then the next step would be, the moving forward of that in terms of the true physical inventory.
I love making videos with Richard Tyrer because I just sit back and I just go. I pondered just sliding out of frame. Richard, that's it. Thank you so much. As always, inventory is. It seems like on its surface it seems like such a mundane kind of topic, but really it underpins so much of the Star Citizen experience that we are working to build in the future. So.
I mean, 100%. I mean, that's why I like to give people the understanding of our intentions of what we're trying to achieve. Because it's easy for me to just go, yeah, this is what you're going to get. Local inventory. It works like this. You open it up in the local area. It's limited to that. Job done. But it's about, I think our community deserve more. They deserve, well, why are we doing this? What is our intentions? We've been told physical inventory. Why are you putting this random local inventory in? And it's about explaining the reasoning, the understandings, what we're trying to achieve, to validate that gameplay, and then to bring all the other teams along with us. So it's
that's why we get
a long journey.
That's why we get along. Follow-up question though: as a child, are you like this because your parents didn't get you a suitcase, or because they got you too many suitcases?
To be honest, for me, I like RPGs, and if you play every RPG, I remember playing Skyrim, and it's like you go into the first dungeon, and you're like, well, I do need a load of money, and then it's like, okay, 5 trips later, back and forth to the town, and you're like, I'm collecting all that dwarven gold. It's a gameplay loop in and of itself, so there's definitely lots to achieve.
And that's what's like one of the biggest and coolest things about game design for me, is that like it's something that seems small, but it just has such a big impact, right? And it's like it's a ripple effect too, right? It's a like player decisions to designing other stuff to what do ships look like? What does ship designs look like? Right? There's weapons racks in in the ships, right? Like that's eventually gonna hold weapons, right? Like it's about like it's something small, right? It feels small, but like if it's done right, which it sounds like they're trying to get it right. Yeah, it's amazing. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching. Is there anything else that I want to say? No, I don't think so. Just super cool. Like always. I'm like trying to be biased, like, or not biased. I'm trying to be objective about it, but like just all the stuff is just cool, and I just am a kind of a fanboy of like the design of it and seeing. Some of the stuff I don't agree with, but that's we can have that discussion later. Mostly it's about the ship buying and stuff. So the biggest thing I'll just talk about now. The biggest thing I'm worried about the ship buying is that it is good money for them. So are they going to be able to stop? Right? It's kind of a hopefully they can. Right? Because I don't think like when the game comes out, like ship buying should be a thing. But anyway, that's it for me. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Don't get the Rona. And yeah, link in the description of my other channel. And then also the part 1 is up too, so check that out. The editing is going to be weird, but whatever. Okay. Have a good day. Bye.